You shake them, you pump them, you love them. That's right, we're talking about Posca paint markers. Or are they pens?
Wait, what?
Hello, I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be drawing with these Posca pens. I've had these sets for over 5 years, but only used them for a grand total of 2 projects. I was such a weeb. I originally bought them for their ability to paint on special surfaces like plastic and wood and glass and stuff. But hey, who says we can't also use them for illustrating on paper? Like a normie. But first things first, I needed to get a little familiar with the properties and colors of these Posca pens. Oh right, sorry, I was pretending to be the closed captions there for a sec. Like I said, I only used this medium 2 times before, so I didn't even activate some of the colors. The greens, the purple, the orange were all still brand new. So lucky day for you guys, you get to see some nib pumping action. That sounds a little weird. If you don't know what Posca markers are, they are markers filled with acrylic paint. And that's pretty much all you need to know. The 2 sets I currently own actually contain the exact same colors. One of the sets just has a smaller nib for finer details. And after swatching them and observing them, an unfortunate discovery was made that these colors don't really go well with each other. The sets kind of contain a basic rainbow. We got 1 or 2 colors from each part of the rainbow, plus a gray, a brown, a black, and a white. Everything you need in theory, except with the colors being so centered and vibrant in their hue, it made it pretty difficult to create harmonious color palettes for an illustration, especially when you consider that you can't really mix or blend them together. I mean, you can because it is liquid paint, so you could just, like, while it's still wet, go over it with a different color and, like, mix it together. But I don't like that idea because then you'd start contaminating the nibs. I've also seen some people who squirt the paint out of the marker and then paint with it with a paintbrush, but like, no offense, but that just seems like a very expensive and confuddling, difficult way to get regular acrylic paint. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? The whole point to me about Poscas is that it comes in a pen form, which allows you the precision and cleanliness to create very slick, graphic designish styles. That's special, so I'm gonna use it specially. That also meant that I was going to be limited to very narrow color palettes. But even if you have more colors, that tends to be the general consensus when it comes to working with Posca pens. It does force you to work with limited color palettes, which can be hard, but also it's really good practice. I only had 3 pages left in my little handmade multimedia sketchbook, so I ended up picking out 3 duo palettes for 3 illustrations. Light blue and pink, red and black, and light green and yellow. These were the 3 color combos that at first glance were the most aesthetic for my personal tastes, and also colors that I felt were kind of tried and true, so I hoped they would look good next to each other. And now, let's get drawing. When I see pink and light blue, all I think of is bubblegum. It's just such a cutely obnoxious color palette, and bubblegum is literally the amalgam of cute and obnoxious. So for this first illustration, I decided to draw this person blowing a big ol' bubble. And I gave her this really sharp bowl cut because why not? No reason, really. Whenever working with limited colors, I usually like to simplify everything as much as possible so that the colors can say a lot. If you draw something with a bunch of details but only use the same 2 or 3 colors throughout the entire piece, it can start to just look like, oh, that artist ran out of colors to use. Whereas if you keep things simple, focus more on angles and shapes, it makes the limited color palette more intentional and makes it so the colors actually play a major role in the feeling and composition of the whole piece, rather than just what you used to color stuff in. But the hard part of simplification is that because there are such few details, every detail that does exist carries a lot of weight to the viewer. Everything's really noticeable, so you gotta be able to draw everything really well. It took a lot of thorough thinking to make sure all of the shapes worked well together, and thinking about color placement because I didn't want anything of the same color to be touching each other, or else it would look weird and unbalanced. And then of course I wanted everything to be super duper clean and precise, so I had to concentrate uber duper hard on making sure all of my strokes were clean and going in the same direction. I was honestly a little obsessive about this part. You don't need to make them all perfectly going in the same direction, but I mean, I just wanted to. Because the main two colors for this first illustration were pink and blue, I decided to use purple for the line work because pink and blue mixed together would make purple. The purple that comes in my sets is also one of the darker colors, so it worked out pretty well. I feel like this first piece is probably the most unique of the three, mostly because of the hair. But I do feel like the proportions of her body are a little weird. I went a little far with that whole angular thing, but hey, that just comes with the territory of traditional art. No undos or edits. Except I totally scanned it in and then edited on my computer afterwards, so I got my cake and eaten it too. Tasty. Next up, we have red plus black, a classic color combo, and one that has always been one of my personal favorites. I just feel like red and black make such a perfect combination of power and sleek. In the sketch thumbnail, I originally played with the idea of putting a square behind the girl and having her have these huge square sunglasses. The reason was because the main shape in the first piece was a circle. I put a circle in the background and there was also a circle bubble. So I was like, hey, maybe I can make all of these illustrations have different main shapes. But in the end, I opted out of that idea and just stuck with the circle for all three. And while I do like how they all look with the circles, and let me tell ya, once I upload them onto Instagram and they're all next to each other, they're gonna just look mwah. But I do kind of regret not going with the varying shape thing. It might have been kind of cool, but hey, maybe if I do a part 2 of this Posca palette thing, I will do squares. Let me know in the comments if you guys would like to see that. Anywho, for this second piece, I knew immediately that the girl would have red hair, and I was kind of excited by that idea, so I made it very long and slick and sharp. Even though I was sticking with 2 main colors for each of these illustrations, as you already saw, I am also using other colors for stuff like skin and line work because tomato red skin doesn't sound like a great idea. In the first illustration, I used a total of 5 colors plus white for highlights, and for the second piece, I used only 4 colors plus white, because in this case, I didn't have to use a separate color for the line work because I already had black at my disposal, but I did have to use gray for the sunglasses and shading on the skin because pure black shading, not a great idea. I did actually do the pure black shading on the hair because red and black man, what can I say? They just look so good next to each other. But using black for shading on like any other color, especially for this kind of peachy skin color, would look so awfully terrible. And by the way, speaking of skin colors, I do wish I had a few more colors for skin tones, because there are really only 2 colors in my set that are even remotely humanly skin toned. This peachy orangey color that I used for the first and second piece, and a dark brown, which you'll see me use in the third piece. But it really would have been nice to have a few more peachy colors that were a bit redder, because this one color is a little bit yellow, and also a couple of lighter browns and a slightly darker brown too. But I'll talk a bit more about that when I move on to the third piece. Back to this red and black one, I did struggle a bit with figuring out how to black out her sunglasses but still show her eyes in some way. I ended up putting a little impression of one of her eyes over the light part of the sunglasses, which I know doesn't really make sense because technically the gray part should be the shiny part of the sunglasses. That's where the light is reflecting off of the sunglasses, and you should not be able to see through that. But hey, this is art. Sometimes you gotta break some rules for the sake of prettiness. And I think it looks pretty neat in the end, so... When I think of yellow and green, I think of lemon and lime, because what else is there, honestly? So I knew I was going to incorporate some citrus into this third piece. I was also really excited to use the yellow because it was just one of my favorite colors among these sets. I also saved this piece for last because I knew I was going to try to use the brown for the skin, and let me tell you, it is really nerve-wracking to fill in a large space with a solid dark color, especially something like skin, because it needs to be really smooth and neat, and if you get it wrong, it can start to look really lumpy and weird and streaky, and it's very difficult, kind of impossible to fix. And another thing that I was unsure about going into this piece was what color to use for the shading and the line work, because brown, which I used for the main color of the skin, is the darkest color I have besides pitch black. And I didn't want to use black for the lines and the shading because I already did that for the second piece, and I wanted something a little more colorful. So at first I tried this light blue, but that didn't work. Turns out using a bright color for shadows isn't a thing. But thankfully Posca pens are very opaque, so I was able to go over all of the lines with dark blue, which worked a lot better. In the end though, I do still feel like it's a little too light. It's pretty much the same brightness value as the brown, so it doesn't really stand out that well as a shadow or line work. I wish it was just a smidgen darker, kinda like this. Yeah, I scanned it in and then darkened the lines, but that's all I did. And if I had a darker blue Posca pen in the first place, then I would have used it in the first place. So, not a cheater, except I kinda am. What can I say? I am an obsessive perfectionist. Sue me. All in all, and digital edits aside, I really enjoyed working with these Posca pens. I was honestly kind of inspired to make this video after seeing just how trendy Posca has become in recent times within the online artist community. I feel like everyone's using them now all of a sudden, and it's really strange to see like a random hard to get specialty product that you bought 5 years ago become like a thing. Not to mention all of the new colors they have, and seeing versions with different nibs and like English written on the pens and packaging, like what? But it is a really cool product, so kudos to Posca, I guess. I do gotta admit though, going into these illustrations on paper, at first, I was kind of like, what the hell am I doing? Because I could honestly do this kind of art style on my computer in like half the time, because as you guys know, I am both a traditional and a digital artist, so why would I do digital art traditionally? It doesn't make any sense. The whole process was nerve-wracking as heck, but the twist, after a while, I started to get used to it and really zoned in. It really forces you to engage your brain and concentrate and think thoroughly about your process. And then once you add that line work and it all comes together, the finished product just looks so cool. Like it's literally a digital piece of art that is made out of paint and it's physical in your sketchbook. Like what? It's so satisfying and honestly kind of really addicting. Every time I finished one, I wanted to draw another, and a good art supply, in my opinion, is one that makes you want to create more art. So Posca pens get my Zaccy stamp of approval, and I will definitely be drawing with them some more. I do need some more colors, but not sure when or if that'll happen. In the end, I really like how these 3 illustrations came out. I feel like maybe they would make cool stickers or something, you know? I don't know. Maybe that's a little foreshadowing. Thank you so much for watching and listening and spending some of your day with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little bell so you get notified on upcoming videos. Before you go, be sure to drop a comment down below letting me know what you think, and let me know which of these 3 designs is your favorite. Also, have you used Posca pens? What do you think of them, if you have? I always love hearing from you guys. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!